Elden Ring is one of the richest, most profound and complex lore and world building I've ever seen in an open world action game. Although Witcher 3, which admittedly has a rich lore and world building as well, there is something unique and special about how Elden Ring portrays its characters and narrative. Which is why I wanted to make this video, to share my interpretations and ideas on what the written text represents, with the intention that it will provide a new perspective you haven't considered before. This was a long video in the making because I wanted to do hours of research first, as that is the only way to make this lore justice. In order to understand Marika's intentions, we need to understand three main things to make accurate assessments. First, what is the Elden Ring exactly? That thing that Marika shatters, it is metaphysical nature and its implications on the lands between. Second, what happened exactly while the Elden Ring was being shattered and how the actual process occurred. Believe it or not, there are actual hints in the game that tells you how it happened. Third, what are the consequences of shattering the Elden Ring, which we know to be done by Marika? In this video, we're going to explain these three main questions, yet I need to refer to the Knight of the Black Knives and Malekith to explain some of the logic behind my arguments. However, a separate video will be made, if you like this one, to explain these topics in more depth. Let's start the conversation with the Elden Beast. Elden Beast description goes as follows. It is said that long ago, the Greater Will sent a golden star bearing a beast into the lands between, which would later become the Elden Ring. It was the vessel beast of the Greater Will and the living incarnation of the concept of order. So, here is the big question. What is the Elden Ring? Although never explicitly described by the game, an accurate understanding of the nature of Elden Ring forms the very basis, the foundation of understanding Marika's intentions. In my analysis, Elden Ring can be explained as the metaphysical fabric of existence that forms the very interconnectedness of all phenomena and the unified order of power that is intrinsic to all things. Now, a funny thing happened after I made this observation of what the Elden Ring is. I've come across Miyazaki's interview on Edge Boss magazine where he said the following. Referring to Tolkien Lord of the Rings, in terms of conceptual differences, whereas the One Ring is something that actually physically exists and fits your hand, the Elden Ring is more of an abstraction. It's a representation of something metaphysical. Metaphysics is the branch of philosophy that deals with the first principles of things, including abstract concepts such as being, knowing, identity, time, and space. In other words, referring to an idea, doctrine, or posited reality outside of usual human sense perception, the path of understanding the essence of existence and knowledge. What made me really happy is that I got the inklings of Elden Ring was more of a metaphysical thing than an actual physical ring while analyzing the lore before I've encountered Miyazaki's interview. Now, this definition of Elden Ring will be important because it will come in handy trying to understand what Marika wanted to accomplish by shattering it. Which leads us to the second subject. What happened exactly while the Elden Ring was shattering and how the actual process occurred? Before we get to the consequences, let me point out a very overlooked yet important information in regards to the shattering process that is conveyed to us by FromSoft in the Elden Ring trailers that is connected to the line spoken by Marika towards Radagon. Here is the line, "O Radagon, leal hound of the Golden Order, thou yet to become me, thou art yet to become a god, let us be shattered both, mine other self." Now, although this is a very rich lore within the greater narrative, and we need to explore that more deeply, for the purposes of this argument, I want you to focus on the phrase, "let us be shattered both," as in Marika proposing to Radagon to become one in regards to shattering of both, which is a clear indication of the process of shattering the Elden Ring as well. Now, where is my evidence? In this trailer of Elden Ring by FromSoft, let's stop right here. You see that as Radagon is hitting the hammer, his actual body is shattering just like how the Elden Ring is shattering. Remember, we already made it clear Elden Ring is not a physical thing. It's an abstract metaphysical concept, as Miyazaki confirmed. This recontextualizes the scene. Remember that at this point, Radagon and Marika are not two separate beings. They are unified and a single god. You see Radagon in this trailer, yet as the plot twist goes, Radagon is being Marika right around this moment. Or another interpretation can also go closer to the Shattering event. Their union is not happening all the way back many years ago. No, it is intimately connected with the Shattering event. And this explains how Radagon in the final boss encounter has the representation of Elden Ring symbol in his stomach. Marika and Radagon has become one and infused the metaphysical abstraction that is the Elden Ring into their corporeal and Empyrean non-dual physical body. That was the purpose of why Marika asked for Radagon to become one, for him to become a god by merging with herself, so that they could shatter the Elden Ring and corporeally contain it as a vessel for this metaphysical abstraction. Also, we see that their shards of body have shattered physically as Elden Ring shattered, which is clear when you look at Marika being crucified and Radagon in the final boss fight. They don't have their entire bodies. After all, in the alchemical perspective, Marika is the Mercury, described as the White Queen, whereas Radagon is the Sulfur, described as the Red King. Their non-dual unification creating the Rebis God for the ultimate purpose of creating what is called the Philosopher's Stone, a substance that is capable of turning a thing into gold. Now, what comes to mind when I say gold? Let me rephrase that. Unalloyed gold. Exactly. Miquella, the child of Radagon and Marika. The perfect Rebis child. But the alchemical lore of Elden Ring is a tangent at this point. So let's clarify our argument for this question. Marika is asking Radagon to become a single non-dual god so that they can shatter the Elden Ring and embody the metaphysical within their corporeal physical body. Marika truly embodying her title, Marika the Eternal Queen. Which leads us to the third question. What are the consequences of shattering the Elden Ring, which we know to be done by Marika? There are two main consequences of shattering the Elden Ring. The first, the bloodline of Marika's kin and her demigods being bolstered and strengthened by the shards broken when Elden Ring was shattered. These demigods claim the shards and infuse their power into their beings, as the lore goes, tainted by their newfound strength. When the interconnectedness of all phenomena was broken, as we talked about in the definition of the Elden Ring, the shards of Elden Ring was now in a state that was, as I like to call, open to manipulation by Marika's kin, to gain further strength and power, to be able to integrate it into their own beings. The second consequence of the Elden Ring is further perversion and hiding away of destined death. In other words, the rune of death, within her shadow-bound beast Maliketh, as the Beast Clergyman. I call personally Beast Clergyman as the incognito mode, where destined death is hidden from all. Now, let's unpack the first consequence. This is a very important but overlooked aspect of the lore. Marika's demigods weren't always like this. Radahn wasn't always this huge giant, nor Rykard this abomination of a serpent. As we can observe both Rykard and Radahn's portraits pre-shattering, they were humanoid, just like Godwyn was when he was assassinated. In fact, that is why the thrones in front of Morgoth are humanoid-sized. Radahn can't fit in that throne, nor Morgoth, because the power of the shards has bolstered and strengthened some of our demigods from humanoid to something larger than life. We can see this in effect when we kill Morgoth. When we gather his great rune, he turns into this humanoid form, pre-Shattering, who he really was at the hands of Godfrey, his father. What exactly is occurring when humanoid demigods are infusing the shards into their beings? Let's remember the Elden Ring's definition. What happens when you shatter the Elden Ring? The very interconnectedness of all phenomena is broken, which makes the parts, as represented by broken shards, being in a vulnerable state, open to manipulation by Marika's kin. Elden Ring must have been shattered so that interconnectedness can be broken and Marika's demigods could infuse their power into their beings. As long as the interconnectedness that is intrinsic to the fabric of existence remained, Marika could never manipulate the shards in a way her demigods could utilize and express. That was the first key motivation behind the Shattering event, making sure Marika's kin was bolstered by the shards of the Elden Ring. And also let me remind you that Marika is Radagon, so that means Radagon's children are also getting emboldened by these shards. Now that it is clear that the power of the Elden Ring has turned humanoid demigods into what they are in the game, this puts a greater understanding of when exactly Maliketh and Godwyn has started turning into the abomination that is Beast Clergyman and that thing. This is the second consequence of Elden Ring, further perversion and hiding away of destined death. When the infusion of these shards occur, the shards are not just perverting the demigod, but the shards themselves are being perverted by the demigod in a reciprocal manner. Their ideas, personalities, their desires, these are all affecting the forms that they have. Now, Maliketh is actually Marika's half-brother, as made clear in the lore. By the time Elden Ring was shattered, the Rune of Death was in Maliketh's hand. After the Night of the Black Knives, he did this to protect it. After a fragment of death was stolen on that fateful night, Maliketh bound the blade within his own flesh, such that none might ever rob death again. I'm proposing to you that Maliketh didn't immediately turn into Beast Clergyman when he bounded the blade within his own flesh right after the assassination. This transformation to Beast Clergyman happened after the Elden Ring was shattered, and the shards have activated, so to speak, when the interconnectedness of all phenomena was broken. Now the shards can be manipulated by Marika's bloodline. Let me point out, to strengthen my argument, that similarly Godwyn is not turning immediately into the abomination he does. As the lore goes, it is said that this postulate came from the visage of the Prince of Death, he who used to be called Godwyn. As first dead of the demigods, it is said he's buried deep under the capital, at the Earth Tree's roots. This means, at first, nothing foul has occurred. He had a normal Earth Tree burial, and only sometime, unspecified later, does he turn into this abomination. Only sometime later, Destined Death's curse infesting his body started to express and change his form. Maliketh had the Rune of Death in his flesh, in his hand, and similarly Godwyn had the Destined Death's curse in his body, coursing through his body, and both have some sort of bloodline heritage to Marika. Maliketh is her half-brother, and Godwyn is her child. So this transformation has occurred with the shattering of the Elden Ring. Otherwise, if the curse within Godwyn's body immediately turned him into that abomination, then he could not get an Earth Tree burial. Some time definitely passed before the power activated which is why Malekith similarly didn't turn into Beast Clergyman immediately after bounding the blade into his hand. And this is important because this puts a very profound meaning on Malekith's words here, telling us that Marika's betrayal to him was intimately connected with the Shattering event. Marika, why would you gull me? Why shatter? Gull means to trick or to betray. And the last part, why shatter, is explaining the reason why Malekith feels betrayed, which as its source is the Shattering event. We only just made the connection that Malekith turned into Beast Clergyman because of Shattering. Malekith is lamenting this Beast Clergyman form he was forced to maintain post-Shattering. And I say forced to maintain very intentionally. Here is why. Beast Clergyman form is forcing the shadow-bound beast Malekith into hiding, as this is a perversion of his former glory, the death rune slowly eating away at him from the inside. Marika is forcing Malekith into a form where no one knows or even can know where Malekith is, therefore not knowing where the destined death ultimately resides. Which means no one, not even the Glowmite Queen, not even other demigods, not even dragons, no one can ever utilize it to kill a god, to kill herself or her demigods. This is the second consequence of Shattering, reinforcing the title again, Marika, the Eternal Queen. It is very important to understand Marika wanted to make destined death as hard to access as possible. Her reign started long time ago by sealing destined death in Malekith's blade after defeating the Glowmite Queen. Malekith was very well known among the realm. Everyone feared him and even referred to him as the death of the demigods. Not that he killed demigods per se, but he had the power to kill demigods. Long ago, Gurranq was a beast of such terrifying ferocity that his former name meant death of the demigods. Stone of Gurranq. Gurranq is the name of Beast Clergyman hidden as Malekith. Now let's quickly go over the lore behind who Malekith was and how he became who he is today. Malekith, Queen Marika's loyal half-brother, bore a blade imbued with destined death, and there was not one demigod who did not fear him. Champions knew what was at stake. Indeed, that is what made them champions. The black flame could once slay gods, but when Malekith sealed destined death, the true power of the black flame was lost. Sacred sword of the dusk-eyed queen, who controlled the Godskin apostles before her defeat at the hands of Malekith. The black flames wielded by the apostles are channeled from the sword. The apostles, once said to serve destined death, are wielders of the god-slaying black flame. After their defeat by Malekith, the Black Blade, the source of their power was sealed away. This all means that Malekith felt betrayed because all the Shardbearer demigods are fighting among themselves, and destined death is an even more potent power in this environment, the power to kill a god. The Shardbearers have been significantly strengthened by the Elden Ring, and Malekith is not going to risk turning back into his former glory by breaking the seal in his hand as he did with us as a last resort. He will be attacked in that form by all demigods because the power to kill gods will decide who sits on the throne or not, who has the power or not. Malekith made a promise to himself after the assassination that he won't allow anyone to steal the Rune of Death. So, he is doing that very task. By hiding away as the Beast Clergyman, he can make sure that the Rune of Death is forever hidden as well. After all, the best way to protect the Rune of Death is not by fighting away with opposition and risking defeat, but by hiding it away in a way not accessible in the first place. By letting go of the infamous Malekith and becoming the nobody Beast Clergyman. Meaning Marika calculated the loyalty of Malekith would coincide with his hiding away in this form. he would not risk going back into Malekith's true form. Yet, Beast Clergyman was a curse upon Malekith, and he lamented Marika for shattering the Elden Ring for this reason, explaining, why gull me, why shatter? This all points to how much Marika desired eternal life and strength, not just for her, but also for her demigods. How this act is an extension of the immortality and life-reinforcing practices of her order. Finally, let's remember the current state of Marika. When we enter the Earth Tree, we see her crucified, stabbed by a fragment of death rune in the womb, punished by something or someone. Now here's a question. Who do you think has punished Marika for shattering the Elden Ring? I propose Enya gives us a hint. Queen Marika is the vessel of the Elden Ring, carrier of its vision, a god in truth, but after Elden Ring's shattering, she was imprisoned in the Earth Tree, a grim punishment for shattering the Order, despite her godhood. The fingers speak. Marika's trespass demanded a heavy sentence, but even in shackles, she remains a god, and the vision's vessel. Confer great runes to become Elden Lord, and join Queen Marika as her consort. The fingers have willed it so. Now you may go. It is said that long ago the Greater Will sent a golden star bearing a beast into the lands between, which would later become the Elden Ring. It was the vessel beast of the Greater Will. This description makes it clear Greater Will is more or less synonymous with the Elden Beast. As we know from the lore, Finger Maidens and Finger Readers are envoys of the Greater Will. Enya says, I interpret the words of the fingers, envoys of the Greater Will. Now, finally, from Bernal's dialogue, we know for a fact Greater Will is guiding the Tarnished to punish Marika's trespass. We hunted our own kind and took what was theirs, and with everything in hand, the time has come to rise against the Earth Tree. O Greater Will, hear my voice. I am the recusant Bernal, inheritor of my brother's will, and you will fall to my blade. We refuse to become your pawns. Consider this fair warning. Before becoming an assassin, Bernal used to be a Tarnished just like us. Tarnished are guided by the Greater Will for a reason. Shattering the Elden Ring is just one part of it. As the first cutscene of the game makes it clear, a war from which no lord arose, a war leading to abandonment by the Greater Will, referring to the disappointment Greater Will had over Marika's demigods and consequently abandoning them in favor of the Tarnished, which is when it landed the grace back to Tarnished, whereas Marika exiled them previously. See, this is a big misconception because Marika never followed up on her promise to Godfrey and the Tarnished in regards to reviving and coming back to the lands between. In fact, that is why, immediately after Godfrey's exile, Radagon is returning to the capital. This is not a coincidence. Marika orchestrated this so that Godfrey and Tarnished, both potential problems for her plans, and to finally show how manipulative Marika was, Roderica explicitly said this in regards to Hugh's curse, and stated the confusion he was in along with other key members like Gideon. Slay the god Marika, who cursed us all. Roderica says this in her line in the dialogue. Slay the god Marika, who cursed us all. This is a complex topic we won't get into now because I have to explain Hugh's curse and how Gideon was also perverted by this, but we will explore this in the future if you want to, all implicating Marika's perversions on the servants of the Round Table Hold. Getting back on topic, the point I'm making is that the death rune fragment clearly visible, pierced into the womb of Marika, is an act done by the Elden Beast, by Greater Will, to punish Marika for her trespass, for going too far, for trying to usurp the influence of the greater will, of the order that is intrinsic to lands between, a punishment for her greed and ambitions to become more than what she was. The fragment of death is pierced towards her womb because Elden Beast desires no more children from Marika at this point. Her punishment is crucifixion until a Tarnished can arrive and become the Elden Lord. At the end of the game, Marika is no more than a symbol of an age-long past. Nothing is left of her. An empty vessel for the Elden Ring. Sacred Relic Sword makes it clear. Sword wrought from the remains of a god who should have lived the life eternal. Thoughts on what the weapon portends are many and varied. Some consider it the mark of a great sin or a sign of great devastation. Some think of it as the end of an age, while others the beginning. The remains of a god who should have lived the life eternal, referring back to her title again, Marika the Eternal Queen. When an Empyrean candidate like Miquella or Malenia ascends Marika's status, a new reign and order will begin. Remember that Ranni has rejected her Empyrean fate and rebelled against the greater will, which leaves only the Order of Rot and the Order of Abundance as suitable successors for Marika in Greater Will's eyes. An order that Greater Will and Elden Beast will surely prefer over the perverted reign and the mastermind who was Marika. Hello everyone, this was the end of this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. There are many things I could explore, yet the video was very long as it was. I hope you enjoyed this analysis. It took me many hours to create. I would be really happy if you can like, share, and comment, and let me know if it provided you with a fresh perspective on the game. I really love Elden Ring, and I hope you do so even more after this video. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.